I think I fell in love with Bomb Rush Cyberfunk the second I saw it. The first teaser trailer must have hit my Twitter feed around the same time it dropped, sometime on July 22nd, 2020. Despite the video lasting only 14 seconds, it was more than enough to convey its mission: be the spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio. Jet Set Radio, a textbook cult classic. Developed by Smilebit, Jet Set Radio was one of the very first cel-shaded games with fantastic art direction by Ryuta Ueda and Kazuki Hosokawa, and an absolutely stellar hip-hop and funk and J-pop and rock and electronic soundtrack led by the GOAT Hideki Naganuma. At the time, it was lauded with praise for its excellent gameplay, fantastic levels, and for the aforementioned art and music. But it was released in 2000 for the Sega Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was discontinued in January 2001. Jet Set Radio hadn't even been out for a year. Seemingly everyone who played it loved it, but releasing on a dying console is a tough proposition. Jet Set Radio Future, once again developed by Smilebit, should have been the answer to this. The team consisted of most of the developers from the first, including Ueda on art and Naganuma on music, and was shaping up to be a reimagining of the original game, refined gameplay, larger levels, more music, even a multiplayer component, now on the burgeoning new Microsoft home console, the Xbox. Jet Set Radio Future released in 2002 to mostly favorable reviews. Some criticized, others adored, most didn't even give it a shot. Slight tangent, I should also notice there's a fascinating Game Boy Advanced version of Jet Set Radio with deliciously crunchy visuals and audio, but it's not necessarily relevant to the overall series' legacy. Anywho, with two fantastic games released but lackluster sales for both, Sega all but abandoned the series. While Future has been mostly lost to time, Jet Set Radio at least received an HD remaster for phones, the PS Vita, the PS3, the Xbox 360, and most helpfully the PC. And the series remained dormant until some sort of successor was announced during the 2023 The Game Awards. Over 10 years after the port's released, 21 years since the last proper title with Future. And I haven't played any of them. I never had a Dreamcast, never had an OG Xbox. My first time seeing the game was on YouTube sometime after the Steam port released. But the 1.5 Let's Plays I watched were more than enough to fall in love with the series. Even just watching, I could tell it was fun to skate around these arenas, and I fell head over heels with the soundtrack. I did attempt to play the Steam version at one point, but at the time I didn't have an Xbox controller and my computer couldn't run it well anyway, so I never got outside the tutorial. One person who did manage to play Jet Set Radio Future was Dion Coster. Coster, along with Tim Remmers, founded Team Reptile in 2011. As Coster was beginning his game development journey, Jet Set Radio Future entered his life. By his own admission, Future blew his mind and shaped the way he thought about the medium of video games. This inspiration is clear throughout all of Team Reptile's catalog. This inspiration is first noticeable by the visuals. Team Reptile's first 3 hits, Megabyte Punch, Lethal League, and Lethal League Blaze, were all well defined by their low polygonal models, distinct character silhouettes, cel-shaded lighting, and popping color palettes. Lethal League and Blaze take this a step further with their funky hip-hop OSTs. Blaze even marked Team Reptile's first collaboration with Jet Set Radio composer Hideki Naganuma, with him writing the main theme, Ain't Nothing Like a Funky Beat. Of course, the Smash Bros. Inspired Megabyte Punch and the 2D fighting sport platformer Lethal League are wildly different from the cartoony skating of Jet Set Radio, but making a game more directly inspired was always in the back of Coster's mind. After finishing Blaze, the idea was finally brought to the forefront. Development lasted roughly 3.5 years, but the public didn't get a whiff of Bomb Rush Cyberfunk until July 17th, 2020, when Team Reptile tweeted out a video with a date accompanied by the sound of a spray can. 3 days later, a logo appeared. 2 days after that, a 14-second trailer that told me everything I needed to know. Skating, graffiti, stunning visuals, and a funky song I'd later learn was composed by Naganuma. I don't know exactly when on July 22nd I saw the trailer, but when I did, I was instantly sold. Throughout development, the main dev team consisted of roughly 12 people, but that number pales in comparison to all who touched the project. Team Reptile worked with dozens of other artists for all the graffiti, environment and key art, UI elements like the phone, for the soundtrack, for the animations, even for the dance moves. Over the next few years, Team Reptile gave a steady stream of updates, both on their website and through Twitter. Characters and locales were revealed, Naganuma was confirmed to be on the soundtrack, as well as one of my favorite artists, 2Mello, among numerous others. The game was initially set for a 2022 release, but was delayed to summer the next year, and then finally released August 18th, 2023. Unfortunately, the multiple delays put the game out in a busy time in an already packed year. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk released within weeks of heavy hitters like Baldur's Gate 3, Overwatch 2, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, Sea of Stars, and Starfield, to name a few. Despite the packed year, I was not deterred and jumped into Bomb Rush Cyberfunk as soon as I could. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk takes place within the city of New Amsterdam. BMX gangs known as Writers, that's with a W, rule the streets. Each has carved out a part of the city, claiming it as their territory by tagging the walls and billboards. All of them chase the goal of going all city, which is to defeat every rival gang, gaining complete control of every district. After a brief tutorial, the game picks up with the Bomb Rush crew, Trice, Bell, and their newest member, Red. Red's recently lost his head and all the memories associated with it. His only way of getting it back? To go all city. Doing so involves the Bomb Rush crew traveling to 6 different districts, tagging enough to garner the attention from a rival gang, completing a few challenges, and finally beating them in a crew battle. After taking on a new district, Red will usually have a trippy dream sequence that deals with his past life as a person with a head. These are a lot like the levels in Psychonauts, but if Raz rode a skateboard. Each character in the game specializes in either inline skating, skateboarding, or BMX biking. They all control mostly the same, some very minor differences here and there. In general, each ride can glide against rails, glide along billboards, and cruise up a halfpipe. While riding, grinding, or in midair, the rider can do a trick to get some points. The longer the rider can keep from touching the ground, the longer the combo can ride. If they do hit the ground, each rider can manual for a bit, hopefully giving them enough time to find another rail. And to get truly high scores, a score multiplier is increased each time a rider leans into a sharp corner on a rail and for each billboard ridden across. Immediately, scores are important for defeating rival gangs during the crew battles, but later on there are some achievements that ask you to go above and beyond. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk also included a new tool, the Boost Pack. It allows all the riders to perform superhuman feats. When in midair, they can perform an aerial dash in whichever direction they want, incredibly useful for getting to specific spots. They can also ride directly up vertical rails or poles with ease. Heck, everyone can ride physically upside down. Additionally, the rider can activate their boost to launch themselves forward. Tricking while boosting is worth significantly more points, but the rider can only boost for as long as they have enough juice. The juice is increased both by doing combos or by picking up the boost juice balls found throughout the city. But before the BCR can challenge a rival, they need to garner their attention, and doing that involves tagging the city. Throughout each district are numerous tag spots of varying sizes. There are small, medium, large, and extra large spots. When a rider comes across a small spot, they'll put up a logo based on their name. For instance, Red puts up a big R. All the other spots play out a minigame to determine which design to put up. The minigame is simple. Drag the joystick to any available dot until all the points have been filled in. Medium spots have 4 points to connect, large 5, extra large 6. Each design correlates to each pattern, and more designs are collected throughout the game. Technically, it doesn't matter which design the rider puts up. It could be the same one for every single spot, but aesthetically, I at least tried to change it up. Try being the operative word. Turns out I'm terrible at remembering which patterns I drew mere seconds prior. But it ain't all that easy. After the crew tags too much, the police start to notice. At first, the crew gets a 1-star rating and the useless cops futilely chase after the rider. But as the game progresses and the bomb rush crew grows in infamy, the cops bring out the bigger and bigger guns. During the main game, enough tagging will garner the crew 5 stars and pandemonium ensues, with an even more hectic 6th star in the credits. And the cops get real annoying. They start shooting at the rider, then sniping. They have machines that are able to grab onto them and drag them closer. Luckily, they're also dumb as bricks. By heading into any bathroom, the rider can change into a different outfit, or rather a different color palette, and the cops forget them entirely. Finally, while the game focuses on red, any member of the bomb rush crew can navigate the city, and changing characters is, of course, sick. Throughout each area are checkered dance floors. By busting a move, all the other members will converge, letting the player swap between them. But if there's any heat on the crew, they'll have to change outfits first. One of the most important parts of any game inspired by Jet Set Radio is the soundtrack, and Bomb Rush Cyberfunk nails it in that regard. Every song had me jamming along, grooving in my seat as I skated around the city. While I can easily pick out my favorites, the entire tracklist made for the perfect accompaniment for the gameplay. My personal favorites were the ones that drew inspiration from funk. All 3 of Naganuma's tracks are perfect. I keep getting 2 mellows I Wanna Know stuck in my head, and naturally I couldn't stop myself from moving when Funk Express by Pro or Feel the Funk by Sebastian Knight were on. The audio mix perfected the experience. Each area has a playlist of a few songs that seamlessly flow into one another. There's never a silent moment, and since each area has a different subset of songs, none are played enough to ever get old. The music plays into BRC's biggest strength, its incredible sense of style. This game is so cool. Everything about it is crafted to be sick as hell. The character designs are all so strong. Each of them are instantly recognizable by their silhouettes alone. Red's robotic head is instantly iconic. Vinyl's afro is amazing. Belle's romper and puffy sleeves are great. Not to mention all the rival gangs are given just as much care. There are Frankenstein men in shorts, guys with computer heads, hot women in masks. Everybody looks so cool. And I'd be remiss not to mention the old heads, who are just the best, or some of the fantastic NPCs that dot the levels, like this cool dog. This attention to design is extended through all parts of the game. Each piece of graffiti was crafted by one of numerous artists commissioned for the game, and they all understood the assignment. It takes a while to unlock a lot of them, but it does feel great looking out at the city and seeing all the various tags placed about. Dancers were also commissioned for all the unique moves the characters can pull off. Most of the time, if a character isn't riding, they're dancing, and all the moves are smooth. I really can't think of anything cooler than breakdancing in a square and having all your buds show up and join in. This is all on top of the game itself just being beautiful. While one could boil down the graphics to a high-fidelity Dreamcast game, every individual piece comes together so well. The color palettes chosen for the game's different areas are simply immaculate. The wild hues the sky can take, how they contrast perfectly with the buildings, how each of the characters still manage to pop out with their own bright designs. Everything meshes. It would be so easy for colors to blend, for models to be hard to notice, but the decision to go with the low poly models, the bright cel-shaded lighting, the dynamic character designs, and the funky colors make it so everything snaps together to make every level clear, readable, and visually stunning. But a game can't be visuals all alone, and Bomb Rush Cyberfunk has the gameplay to match. To mention the elephant, yes, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is in fact just a slightly updated Jet Set Radio. Everything from skating, grinding, tagging, and running from the cops is all directly pulled from its spiritual predecessor. But that's okay for 2 main reasons. the new elements and the polished game mechanics do so much to make this game enjoyable, and also it's been 20 years since Future. Sometimes it's fine to just do the thing again, especially when it's executed to this level. The game boils down to two main elements: exploring the levels and going really fast, and both gel so well together. By mastering one, it makes the other more fun, and vice versa. I had a blast traversing each level, grinding, hopping, and boosting to get to far off places. It was always rewarding getting to an out-of-the-way platform, and to be rewarded with a tag spot, or with some new art, a new track, or a new outfit. Plus, by learning each of the levels, internalizing where the bends and billboards were, it made traversing through them that much more gratifying. And traversal is so gratifying. The simple mechanic of grinding along a rail, doing minor tricks, and leaning into corners was just fun. It was just fun. Even when I wasn't going for point combos, I still found myself doing tricks just because it looked cool to do so. And it all became even better when I did decide to go for the point-based achievements. I didn't use it much at the beginning, but boosting while doing a trick adds a bunch of points. Every new corner or billboard adds to the multiplier, and to get these astronomical numbers, I had to fully memorize each area, learning where I could get to without breaking a combo while racking up as many points along the way. Knowing I grinded against almost every single possible corner in an entire level, grinding for minutes without stop before landing and having an achievement pop was one of the most rewarding things I've done in a game in recent memory. The tagging mechanic is also quite good. Much like everything else, it looks so cool doing so, and the mechanic is simple while still being interesting to perform. My biggest complaint is more a personal one. Despite trying to change up the art I was putting up, I found myself accidentally making the same pattern over and over, putting up the same exact tag in every spot. Something in my brain prevented me from just moving the cursor to a different spot to start with, and it made looking at everything slightly less interesting, but that's overall a much more personal and minor complaint. If I'm complaining though, the police mechanic got old quick. Early on, it's pretty minor, just some guys running around, and it was fun covering them with spray paint. But as soon as they started shooting or grabbing onto the rider, it was just a nuisance. They were never hard to deal with in any regard, but I wish I could just put up a tag without getting their attention, especially in the post-game as I tracked down the last few spots in each area. Every time I tagged a spot, it would raise the police level by a star. I wanted to be able to explore this city, but every other tag, I'd have to find a bathroom just to get them off my back. This specific case might have been patched out. I think they lowered the rate at which the star level rises, but it was very annoying while I was playing. The game also doesn't tutorialize well. Each vehicle has its own unique skill it can perform. The bicycle one being the most obvious, there are doors with bike symbols on them, but the fire hydrant will rise with a skateboard, and bulletproof glass can be destroyed by skates. The game doesn't tell the player this, and these interactions are non-intuitive. You can also jump higher by putting away the rider's gear and doing a trick. Most of these mechanics aren't required to beat the game, but I bumped my head against each of them while going for completion. Finally, the game is somewhat formulaic with how it lays out the story. Each chapter is told the same exact way. Enter an area, compete with the rival gangs, fight off against the police, then beat the team in a crew battle, before Red is pulled into a dream sequence. Don't get me wrong, the areas are so fun to explore, the teams are visually interesting, the story is inspirational, and the dream sequences are the best possible combination of Mario Galaxy and Tony Hawk, but it would have been nice for a change in the formula at least once or twice. But none of my complaints outweigh just how much fun I had playing this game. The pure gameplay kept me happily coming back. In fact, completing the game made me appreciate it all the more. I wouldn't have seen how excellently designed these levels were if I wasn't going for the unlockable characters. I wouldn't have mentally mapped a path through each course, optimizing my score multiplier, how often to boost trick, where I should manual, which billboard to slide off of, which carpet to slide on, and where to head to next, if I hadn't gone out of my way to collect those last few achievements. And even in preparation for this video, months after my initial playthrough, I had a blast just grabbing a character and riding around town, because it is fun to move in this game, and this game is all about moving. Overall, I give Bomb Rush Cyberfunk a Polo the Scuba mascot out of 10. What can I say? I love me a good penguin. Thank you so much for watching. This is the long-awaited second part of my series, video games that were released in 2023 with the word Rush in the title. You can see the first part, my review of Hi-Fi Rush, linked to that in the description. I've been meaning to get to this one for a long time now, but life just kept getting in the way. But I hope I convinced you to give it a shot. I really loved my time with Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Let me know your favorite cult classic indie game in the comments. And while you're here, let me know if you enjoyed the video by leaving a rating or subscribing to be notified of everything else I put out. Or you can read my updates on my social medias. I'm at MarioWave everywhere, and links to them are in the description, as well as the GamesIndustry.biz article I used to research the video. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.